Hi, I'm Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Well, this is a very special and unique episode for NFGeeks. First of all, it's unique because it's just me this time. And that is unusual, and that's probably not going to be a common thing to happen on NFGeeks. One of the things I like about NFGeeks is that it's a dialogue. It's a talk show, actually. And it should only be taken as a talk show, it's on the level of a talk show. I kind of model it after Mike Douglas and Dick Cavett, and those are very old talk shows, but nevertheless, it's a talk show. But I want to talk about something that it just cannot be put into the dialogue discussion talk show format because it requires a lot of explanation and storytelling, and I don't know what the other person would do, just sit there and listen to me, and I didn't want to, take up the whole time with someone else. But I have run this story by a few of my fellow NFs, and they all said it was worthy of sharing on NFGeeks. And it's something that has been going on with me for a couple of months now, probably about 2 or 3 months. And it's been very personal, and it's been very profoundly impacting of me, and that's why I haven't really talked about it yet, at least on NFGeeks. And lastly, there was sort of this very sort of frightening and profound NF moment with the whole thing. And that's why the title of this video is When the Universe Speaks, because sometimes the universe or God or whatever speaks to NFs in a way that is that inspires awe and is a little jaw-dropping. And that's the reaction I expect from my fellow NFs after watching this video. When you see why I'm saying it has an NF twist to it, I think they will be impacted by it too. That doesn't mean the other temperaments won't be impacted. I'm sure they will. And I'm sure the other temperaments will have a lot to say about this, especially the NTs, and that's okay. You can, say whatever you'd like about it. That's cool. But I feel that there's something particularly NF about what I experienced, and so really, I guess all the videos are for NFs, but this one's specifically for NFs because they might have a similar experience, and this is a very NF experience all around. And so this, the real thing I want to communicate about this is that this is about when the universe speaks and how our consciousness interacts with the universe. This is a very sort of NF stuff to talk about, but this is stuff that NFs think about, and it's that. There's two levels to this. One is how we, in our actions, our attitudes, our orientations, and not just NFs, everybody, puts out a certain psychological energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, if you want to use that term, but some kind of energy of self into the universe. And then the universe responds and reflects that back. And sometimes it reflects it back in symbols and metaphors, and in profound ways, because it's the universe creating the metaphor, not necessarily you, but it's in response to you. So there is something sort of mutually causal and weird going on, as if one consciousness is interacting with another consciousness, that other consciousness called reality, or the universe, or whatever. And the reason why it's very NF is that NFs seem to be in tune with picking up on this and seeing it and having sort of profound experiences with it, as I had, and you will too. So that's kind of what I want to show and talk about. And it can be deconstructed as to why this happens, and and how this is all just NF craziness. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Just because something's crazy doesn't mean there isn't truth in it. So it's a very NF thing to say. Wish Alex was here to hear that. He'll know. He'll talk about it the next time he's on. So all right. So let's begin the story. I'm kind of being lighthearted, but it's not a lighthearted story at all. It's actually very severe and it's actually changed my life, changed my lifestyle. It's changed a lot of things. So, all right. So here's the story. Here's how it goes. I'm going to give you the backdrop, and then I'll talk about the NF moment. The backdrop is that recently, about 2 or 3 months ago, my oldest friend in the world, named John, passed away. So first of all, he's the oldest friend in that this is somebody I grew up with in my old neighborhood as children. And this is somebody who I've known my entire life, decades, I'm in my early 40s, so this is someone I've known for 40 years, literally. I don't have a memory where I didn't know him. I have memories of interacting with him at like 4 years old. And we always kept in touch through the years. We never stopped seeing each other or being friends. I saw him quite a bit throughout my 20s, 30s. We don't live far from each other. We didn't. He's gone. We didn't live far from each other. only about 20 miles. So we saw each other very, very regularly, at least once or twice a month sometimes, even maybe more than that. So this was somebody I knew and had a very, very long history with. So let me tell you a little bit about him. So first of all, he's an ESFP. So that should tell you a whole bunch of things about him. Okay, he was a drummer, a musician, a professional musician, and after he died, I watched some of his videos of him playing on YouTube. He's on YouTube too, not as many as NFGeeks, but he's there. I found him, and what really struck me was how SP was, and SP at its greatness, which is really precise craft, a precision of the body in craft that is really unmatched by the other types. We don't have that same bodily precision. So in these videos of him, he's playing various percussionist instruments, and it's sort of like a weird, it looks like a drum kit in the sense that there's all sorts of things around him in the video, but it's not standard drums. It's like bongos and things you shake and cowbells and little tiny hi-hats and bells, and it's a setup, but it's not a setup like drums. And this was very SP, and the SP should resonate with this, is that he said to me once, this is like 20 years ago, he said, you know what, I don't want to be a loud drummer. Because in the 80s, there was that whole metal thing going on, and Van Halen, and people having gigantic drum kits and loud. And he said, you know what, I don't want to go that way. I want to be a precise drummer. I want to be a technically precise drummer, not a loud drummer. Now, if that's not SP, boy, I don't know what is. He wanted to be that virtuoso. And he was a very talented man. And watching him play, and I'd seen him play hundreds of times. I used to hear him play when he was a boy in his basement. We'd be jumping around. He'd be on the drums. We'd be like 11. And he had this wonderful style that, he was very, very precise in the rhythm and very, very intricate and complex with the rhythm. And when he was going to hit a specific instrument for a specific effect, he would wind up really early. So like, his hand would be up way in the air, he'd be doing something else, beep, 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 something else, and then it would slowly come down and go, and hit something, okay? And he had this great way of just hitting cymbals and stopping the sound, so it went like that, and he'd have this great sort of style. He'd hit it and then capture it in his hand, and it was really perfect and perfectly timed. I mean, really and acting in a way that all SPs really strive for, okay? So I was very proud of him for that. Now, here's the dark side, and this is kind of ESFP too, got to admit this, because I've known a lot of ESFPs. ESFPs are notorious for damaging themselves partying in lots of different ways. And the truth of the matter is, my friend John was an alcoholic, and he didn't just die, he committed suicide. And he committed suicide through alcohol, meaning he literally drank himself to death. He drank himself to death on purpose, like he decided to drink himself to death and did this, okay? And I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. In fact, I hadn't seen him in 2 years, and this is the longest I'd ever not seen him. I always saw him weeks to months. Maybe that would be the longest I wouldn't see him. I hadn't seen him for 2 years. Because in the middle of that one time, he drunk dialed me, and he didn't even know what time of day it was, and I kind of got annoyed with him, because I've been dealing with his intoxications my whole life. In fact, some of the worst, scariest moments of intoxicating events in my life all are about him, dealing with him, being with him. Moments where I felt I'd had too much, and how was I going to get home, and I think I'm going to be sick, and all the worst ones were with him, and that actually caused me to distance myself from him to a certain degree, and especially near the end, unfortunately. So I hadn't seen him in a while, so I actually didn't see him self-destruct until it was too late. I heard about that he died, and I was stunned. I was even in denial for a little while. So here's the first NF thing about this, and that is that symbolically I want the NF to really think about how things manifest with our consciousness. This is what I'm talking about. He died naked, and you'd be so upset that I said that, but he's dead. He died naked, surrounded by booze, encircling him, bottles around him in a circle, entrapping him, encasing him. Can you think of the image? And especially if you're an NF, think of the symbolism of that enclosement coming around. So it's all sorts of bottles, whiskey and nips and beer, and just like an encasement, a circle of bottles around him when they found him. Okay, passed away. That's the first thing. So it was really horrifying. That's horrifying. And seeing him in the casket was unbelievably horrifying and terrible. I couldn't even believe it. And it did, you know, I have to admit, it did make me change my life. I decided that, you know, he chose death. I'm going to choose life. So I bought a bike. I've been on a diet. If you think I look thinner, that's true. You know, I changed a lot of things in my life. Saw my life differently, and it's really profoundly affected me. So I have some photos I want to show you, and that's actually the point of this, is about how the universe speaks. Okay, so first I want to show what he looked like, and these are not what he looked like now. These are photos from him about 10 or 15 years ago, late 20s, early 30s, I think, because I recognize how he looked in this. These are all actual photos from a camera with film that you're about to see. There's no digital stuff. He never graduated to digital world. In fact, I think that was a sign of his demise. He didn't even own a computer. I know what you're thinking, like, what? But he didn't own a computer at all. So he didn't have any digital photos. He doesn't have a Facebook page. He's not on YouTube. He doesn't even know. He didn't even know about NFGeeks. And he wouldn't have anyway. He didn't have that technology. So these are actual photos on film that he has taken over the decades that I'm going to show and talk about. So here's the first one, and this is not the first picture he took. I just want to kind of give you a sense of what he looked like. And he was a handsome guy, you know, SP. So here's the first one. This is him. He was an avid traveler. Okay, let me see if this is on. Oh, okay, here we go. He was an avid traveler, and he went everywhere, and that's kind of a theme that you're going to see going on. So that's him somewhere in the world. I don't know where. Okay. This next picture is actually my favorite picture of him, because he's obviously out to go teaching. He used to be a music teacher and teach music. I mean, in a school and then lessons and all that. So this is him going to work, more or less. And this was a while ago, but this is what he looked like. Okay. You know, good looking there. He didn't look like that at the end, for sure, but that's what he looked like, at least at one point in his life when I was impressed with him to a certain degree. Okay, so now this is part of his ESFP humor. One thing about him, and at least I can still laugh and smile about him. One thing about him is that he was his favorite audience in terms of making himself laugh. Okay, so he did all sorts of comical things. Today that would be considered trolling, even though he didn't have a computer. It was like 20 years ago. But he was very, very funny, and he loved making himself laugh. Everything he did was for himself. He was his favorite audience. And he had a cackling laugh. You know, a real loud cackle. That wasn't evil or maniacal, but just very, very, very funny. You know, and he was funny. And even stuff I'm going to show you, when I first saw some of this, again, after years of not seeing it, I started to laugh. So, and this is also very ESFP, or at least SP, is that there's sort of a defiance that went on with him. So here it is. The one thing he started doing when we were young, teenagers, like 18, 19, this is in the before time, in the late 80s, he started taking pictures of himself pegging fingers, giving the finger to various objects and things. And so they're pictures of him pegging a finger at inanimate objects, people, whatever. Okay, and so you always see it from his point of view, as if you're seeing it, you know, first person, like a first person shooter, except instead of a gun, it's a finger, a middle finger, at various things. And here's the first one he ever did that I was actually present for. This was taken in his basement, down the street from me, and I was down there with him. I don't know, we were going somewhere or something. And he took this picture, and he was laughing. He thought this was so funny. And here it is, okay? And I have it on my fridge now to remind myself of him, because I was here when he took this. And it says, "This one's for you, and you know who you are," okay? If this was a three-dimensional picture, you would see me and my younger self standing to the side watching him take this picture. Okay, so this is what it looks like. All right, you know, there we go. All right, this one's for you, and you know who you are. All right, thought that was hysterical. Now I admit, at that time, at 18, 19, I thought it was juvenile. Okay, that he took the time to do this, that I had to wait 10 or 15 minutes before we went out or whatever for him to do this. And I told him, I said, "This is juvenile, John. What are you doing?" He didn't care. He never cared about my opinion. You know, I mean, he cared about me as a person. He was a good friend. But, you know, my criticisms of him, you know, went nowhere. Now, so I thought this was juvenile. What happened is that he started to travel, because he was a single guy. He had lots of different girlfriends. You know, he never settled down. He sort of the last American bachelor. And he traveled around. a lot, because all his money was his own. He didn't have a mortgage, he didn't have kids, he didn't have a wife, whatever. So he traveled around the world and traveled around America quite often. And what he started to do is that as he traveled everywhere he went, he gave the middle finger to everyone and everything he saw and took a picture of it. Okay, so I made sure I got these right from his apartment. Okay, so I have stacks, and this isn't even the whole stack. This is okay. I got stacks. Look at this, stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. There's one stack. Here's some more. Okay, I got stacks and stacks and stacks of him, just him, pegging his finger, giving the middle finger around the world, around the country. That's it. There's nothing in that pile except his middle finger in various scenes. And they're artistically done, because I'm going to show a few, because he put the finger in the side of the frame so that you could see what it was he was giving the finger to, and then you would see his finger. So the finger is very rarely in the middle of the shot. It's off to the side, which he did artistically on purpose. Okay? Now there's hundreds and hundreds of these, and I have to admit now that even though I still find it juvenile, it's also art. I have to say, because there's something sort of postmodern and nihilistic about it, that he just continued to do this, and there's so many of these, you know, and I am the proud owner of them, and I did want them because I've seen them from the very beginning. The first one I saw, so I wanted these things, and I got them. All right. So here are a few of the examples, because I want you to kind of get a sense of what he was like with these things. So and how artistic it was. So here's the Grand Canyon. Okay, this is him picking a finger at the Grand Canyon. So Mother Nature is not spared his you know, his rebellion. That's him. I should put my finger on this side. Here he is pegging a finger at the Grand Canyon. Okay, there's one. Anytime, and there's 100 of these. Anytime there were rules somewhere on a board, don't go here, don't smoke, don't do this, it immediately got a huge finger all the time. I can't even tell you how many of these I have. So this one's about at a beach. He was a beach guy. He loved the beach. He was a beach bum. And here he is pecking a finger at the rules. I think he's probably mad about the kayaking, because he was a kayak guy. And that's also very disturbing for me. He was somebody who was vibrant 10 years ago. He biked, he kayaked, you know, he was into nature, he was into swimming, he was in great shape, you know, and he totally self-destructed completely. Okay, so you know, so here's another one of the Grand Canyon somewhere else. Okay, Grand Canyon, maybe the same spot. You see the finger. And there was some ironic ones in here too. Here's one, him pegging a finger at a drum, because he's a drummer, and that looks like a pretty nice drum, but he's giving his own craft the finger. You know, there's something to be said about that. And now we're going to go around the world a couple of times, too. Here is Europe. I don't know where this is in Europe. If you're from Europe, maybe you can tell me. But this is somewhere in Europe. He's giving the finger to this, you know, it's one phallic symbol, you know, offending another phallic symbol. Okay. This is just a choice cut. Keep in mind, there's a ton of pictures. This isn't even close to, like, this is like maybe 5% of the pictures you're seeing. All right? It's insane. You know, I just grabbed a few. Okay, here's another, you know, again, rules. How dare you put limits on my SP behavior. And he's upset, you know, doing that, you know. Oh, here's this one. I know what this is. This is London. Okay, London. If you can recognize this, this is London getting the finger. Okay. This one's personally significant because this is him pegging a finger at, giving the middle finger to the backyard of his house where him and I used to play and grow up. Okay, so it's kind of weird, you know, to see this one, because I used to hang out at that table at all ages of my life, all of my childhood and whatever. So this is at his old property where he grew up, down the street from where I grew up. Okay, this is Europe again. This is either Venice or London. I'm not sure. Again, if you're from either of those places, you can tell me. But it was in there was a section of these that seemed to be from Europe, so that's why I'm sure it's Europe, but I don't know where. He went to a lot of different places. Okay, here's the Apache Reservation saying certain things. He didn't like it. Finger. Okay, there's one. Animals. Lots of animal pictures of this. Okay, I can't even. It's like 400 various animals around the world. Okay, here's one at a dog. Okay, now he liked animals too. It's just part of this art. So there's a dog. Okay. Oh look, here's Epcot. Epcot gets the finger. Okay. Now this one really shows the extent he would go to take these pictures. Okay, this is him taking picture of a fish, you know, giving the middle finger to a fish. You can see the fish over there. Okay, he was a scuba diver. Very SP. He's a scuba diver. So first of all, this is like 20 feet underwater with an underwater camera. So he went, underwater with scuba gear. The whole bit, the oxygen tank, to go underwater so that he could take a picture of his middle finger telling a fish to fuck off. Okay, that's some dedication to art there, or whatever this is. So, this is what he was like. This one's one of my favorite ones. I don't know why. It always makes me laugh. Okay, that's him putting the finger to a rhinoceros, and I'm glad I can laugh because when I found out what he did and how he died, I was furious at him. Furious. I was the only one, I think, that was truly angry at him, and it's been a tough couple of weeks to sort of not be angry at him. So looking at these is actually therapeutic for me because it reminds me how funny I thought he was. Because, earlier, 2 months ago, it's a good thing he was dead because I would have killed him for being so selfish and stupid. But this has kind of helped me to sort of remember what kind of a person he was. Here's another one. Now think of this. Think of the effort it took just to take a picture of your finger. He swam out on his kayak to a shipwreck. Okay, look, that's a shipwreck. I mean, how far off the coast is that? And again, kayaking out to the shipwreck just so that he could give it the finger. And again, look at the finger on the side, like that's on purpose. Okay, it's incredible. All right. Here's again rules. How dare you impose rules on me? All right, how dare you? Okay, this one is South Carolina. Now, don't be offended, South Carolina. There's ones for like every state. I've seen ones for New Hampshire. I've seen ones, for California. I mean, there's a whole, slew of these around the country. So there's no. I just sort of picked it at random. It's nothing to do with the state. Fine state, South Carolina. But places. This one's one of the most artistic ones of all. Wait till you see this. Again, very SP art, even in the absurdity and nihilism and goofiness of what he's doing here. But look at the use of shadow and sunset in this one. Wow, this one's one of my favorites. Look at that. Okay, think about it. It actually has some artistic quality. The fact that he did it. And again, look at the pile. Again, look at this piles and piles and piles and piles. That's just one pile. It's a ton of piles here. Okay, so now we get to the NF disturbing part that kind of thwarted me. Now, I'm going through these piles, just looking at them, laughing, because some of them I sort of vaguely remember seeing before. He'd go on a trip, come back, show me these things. And then I came across this really horrifying picture that made me gasp. Like, honestly, NF gasp, hair on the back of the neck gasp. I went, like that, okay? So I'm going to describe the picture first, and here's what it is. It's another one of these finger pictures. It's, however, and it's the only one like this, and it's out of hundreds, maybe like 500 pictures I have on this table here, maybe more. It's the only one like this. It's a picture of him taking a picture of himself in the mirror. Now, this is like 12, 13 years ago, so this is before, everybody started doing that with the phones and all. So he's using like a camera with film. He's a little innovative there. But he's taking a picture of himself in a mirror. In the picture, he's holding a glass of whiskey. Okay, he's holding a glass of whiskey in his hand, and he's pegging a finger at himself like this with the whiskey. Now, this is the frightening part. That I know that already is a little, what? Jeez. But here's the frightening part. Apparently, this picture got double exposed with another picture on probably the same film. This doesn't happen anymore with digital stuff, but on the same film. And I'm assuming that on the other picture, so two pictures got made into one picture somehow. On the other picture, it looks like he was it was a bonfire or something. Maybe a house burning down, but it was fire. Probably a bonfire, because he would go to things like that. So I'm assuming it's a bonfire. And so the fire is superimposed onto the picture, but the fire is right in the middle of him, so he is on fire. All right, so NFs, I want you to think about this. It's a picture of my friend who committed suicide with alcohol, okay? And this is a picture from over a decade ago of him giving himself the middle finger, holding a whiskey, and the image that is produced is him on fire, okay? Now, in case you think I'm full of crap, take a look at this. Here it is, okay? Look, he's on goddamn fire, okay? Look at this. He's giving himself the middle finger, all right? with whiskey, and he's on, you know, he's on fire. It looks like, and only him's on fire. Okay, you know, think about it symbolically. He's burning up. You know, he's telling himself to fuck off, and that's what suicide is too. I mean, look, here's my point about when the universe speaks. He took a picture that basically represented his own demise from his own attitude. His own attitude was, I don't care about anything, even myself, and this is the end result, and he's on fire. And I don't interpret the fire as hell or something. I do interpret it as burning up and burning out and self-destructing. You know, look at it. I mean, look at it again. He's self-destructing in the picture, and only he's on fire. The fire is only around him. Okay. Now I saw that, and and he was cremated too, on top of all that after the wake. So think about that again. Cremated. Look. Okay, self-destructed with booze. And I gasped at that. I can't even tell you the impact that had on me when I saw that. I went, oh my God. I was right in this room right here. This is my kitchen. I know you wouldn't know that. But I was, you know, I was at the table just looking at these, and I gasped, went, oh my God, look at this. And this is why it's an NF moment, because I think only an NF would really see what has happened here in terms of a greater consciousness of yourself, of your psychological self going out, and then having the universe reflect it back in a metaphorical, symbolic way. Now I know, you know, I'm not crazy, guys. This is for the NTs. I'm not crazy. I realized that there was a film process, you know, the Photoshop place, Matt place, wherever you went to go get this exposed, screwed up the film, and, you know, some teenager in 1998, you know, screwed it up, and that's why this fire, it's 2 photos, you know, superimposed on each other. Okay, I know the process. But through that process, some kind of metaphorical image about his existence, prophesizing his doom. I mean, look at this. It's prophesizing where he is heading, literally. Okay? And that's, you know, putting yourself into the universe, putting your feelings out there, your emotions out there, you know, putting your state of being out there, and then the universe reflecting it back, okay? You know, having this interaction with reality. So you look at this, I mean, the universe produced the prophecy of what was going to happen back at him. I don't know if it had an impact on him or not. I also think there's something sort of cosmic in me having this picture, because I think of all the people he knew, because they were all, you know, partiers or whatever, I think of all the people he knew, I think I was the only NF that he knew. I'm the only one who could kind of see what is going on here with this and how this is reflecting what happened to him. You know, I mean, look at it. It's unbelievable, to me anyway. So I don't know what that means exactly, but the lesson is that, I guess, you know, when we put energy out there, ourselves out there, psychologically, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, the universe responds back in some way and communicates with us. I mean, it was communicating with him. Look at this. 12 years ago, I was saying, this is where you're heading. And that's where he headed. I mean, it happened. I mean, it's not just, you know, this came true. That's the amazing thing. Look, we got booze, okay? We got fire, you know? We got fuck off is in there, you know? Telling oneself, I mean, he's telling himself to fuck off with whiskey on fire. I mean, really. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about that. That's not a little weird. So the universe reveals itself to us. And so I guess we should be open to that. And especially as NFs, again, this is really kind of for the NFs, that we should look for this with ourselves, with people, how the universe sort of comes back at us and communicates to us in a dialogue. And I think NFs have a special dialogue. All the types have a special dialogue, of course. But our dialogue is sort of a metaphorical dialogue where we're understanding that relationship between humanity, emotions, consciousness, and the universe speaking. It's a dialogue, you know. To give an example, NTs are also having that relationship with the universe. It's more of a dialectical than a dialogue. It's a little more analytical. They're having an analytical thing going back and forth. Ours is more of an emotional. It's personal. We have a personal relationship with the universe, and we can see these things and the significant meaning of this, you know. And it was truly frightening. So at the moment, and it still frightens me seeing it now. I actually, this is why it's taken so long to do this video, because it weirded me out for weeks and weeks. I talked about it with the other NFs, and finally I'm doing it now. So that's the So that's the video, When the Universe Speaks. And so feel free to comment and tell me what you think, and if you had similar experiences, or even if you think this is craziness, that's okay. I don't mind. You know, you can say it's crazy. I'll respond, as always, but it's all right. You don't have to take it seriously. It is just a talk show, after all, gang. So, all right, so that's it. So thank you for your time. This was a long video compared to others, and I appreciate that you sat through it. And let me know how you think the universe speaks to you, and how does it do so. That would be very interesting. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.